I'm making this video, so this is going to be for the resume that I have in this album area that you see in this album photo on my Facebook. So what you see, all 10 pages, or whatever number of pages it is, 10, 11 pages, is my resume that I use to look for a job. Every city that I have been to throughout the entire United States and state, I have used that resume and added jobs whenever I needed to. Most jobs I didn't add on there because I felt that they didn't give me enough credit, or I just didn't work there long enough. I put the ones on there that gave me, I think, the most credit that would probably find me work. And I've worked at, probably have a world record in the United States, just alone how many jobs I've worked, how many actual places I officially just worked for 5 hours, just for one day, just for 3 weeks, just for 1 week, whether it was just a short assignment, fired. 90%, 95% of every job that I have been to, it is because I got permanently fired or I was ran off, and it was not due to my own situation, due to the circumstances that has been going on. Now, on my resume, all the jobs that I worked there are listed on there. You can take a look at it, but I think it's important for people to know, because don't know if you're going to believe me or not, and I promise to God that this is the truth. I have not had a full-time job, or let's just say, I'm going to narrow it down, not even just a part or full-time job, even a part-time job, more than 7 or 8 weeks, and in 2 months it'll be about 15 years, and it'll, because the last time I had a job that was more than 7 to 8 weeks was when I worked for the federal government building in downtown Dallas at EPA as a print operator. And when I worked there for about 7, 9 months. Ever since then, I was 27 years old at the time when I got hired. I am now 41, and I turned 42 in 2 months, in a couple of months. When I turn 42, it is going to be officially, if not already, yeah, it is already. It has been 15 years. 15 years that I have not held a job more than 7 or 8 weeks. And anywhere in the United States, and of all the jobs and places that I have applied. I have a world record, also probably in the United States, for one individual to apply single-handedly at job sites. Indeed.com. I have a resume on every major website you can imagine. Indeed, Monster.com, Career Builder, Jobs.com. Every you can imagine, the major ones, so that it is like a staffing agency. And every time I went to every city, I always send the staffing agencies, temporary agencies, a resume. And that is like you give them, and then they branch out looking you for work, on top of me applying directly with companies to trying to get hired full-time. Because most jobs now, you can only get them through staffing agencies. But I have a world record. I know that I could verify this if someone would get all my emails and Indeed applications. I have probably a U.S. record, if not world record. It is unbelievable the amount of places that I've applied. Being homeless on the streets, always looking for jobs, and but for 15 years, I have not held a job more than 7 or 8 weeks, and that is to show you and tell you about the harassment and threats that have been strictly coming up from the homosexual and gay and transgender community, strictly persecuting me. They have never allowed me to work. Every place that I have ever worked at, they made sure they made it either living hell, like it was really fucking bad. I had to either walk off the site, I had to get up and leave. Was not allowed to work there, because as soon as I get hired, they set me up knowing that I was only going to be working there for 2 weeks, and they'll get the other employees to either charge at me, want to fight, or spit at me, or start yelling profanity at me out of nowhere, or set something up just to fire me. So I thought it was important for me to talk about. Um, I had a bone marrow transplant um, when I was 23 and went through chemotherapy. And these people were not allowing me to work. I've only been on disability since I was 35 years old, but I had my bone marrow transplant when I was 23. So regardless of me having even on a disability that's supposed to increase the ability for me to be able to find a job in a lot of ways for those that are on disability, it still did not secure me getting a job. Every job that I had to been to, I had to get up and leave. It was either because not of my own fault. I'd be working at a company, I get kicked out of my house. I have to leave because of safety reasons. Then I have to leave my job. Or they set me up. I've worked in some of the most disgusting places you can imagine. Places like I've worked in a dumpster site, landfill, where there is literally a warehouse full of trash, where I'd be working there for 2 weeks. There's dead rodents on a conveyor belt, just picking up plastic and recycling, digging into the trash, throwing it into a recycle bin. You're walking on a break, and my nose, like on a lunch break, and I'm walking from my station, and my nose is just gushing fucking blood because of the broken glasses in the fucking dumpster sites. I'm a cancer chemotherapy patient, and these staffing agencies would intentionally put me in places like this. A lot of the staff, all the staffing agencies, especially now over the last since the last 15 years, it's always been like that, but the last 15 years have been the worst because they very designated set me up in places where there's very lethal chemicals that I'm being placed around to hopefully commit a homicide or get rid of my life. So what they'll do is they'll have all these job opportunities, and they'll say, okay, this position is a glue operator and deals with a lot of paint. So then they'll send me over there, and I have to be working in an environment where there's a lot of chemicals and a lot of glue that it is not healthy for me to be around. It's healthier for me to be smoking cigarettes than to be around that type of paint and glue. It's very dangerous, especially since I had my plastic anemia. They don't know exactly what caused it. Is caused by various different types of glue or paint. Those types of chemicals. So I thought it was important for me to talk about that no matter how many jobs that I have always applied at, no matter how kind I was, no matter how, and I'm telling you, when I would get to a job, I always would do the very keen best that I possibly could. The way that I build my model ships is the way that I would always try to do my job position, to try to retain my job, to try to keep things, and it doesn't work. When they tell me you can't work here, you have to dig in a trash can for food, that's exactly what I'll be doing. And there's no fucking choice. But I would do everything I possibly can. They tell the people all my personal situations. They're beating me with electronic devices when I get there. They're taunting me about my dead sister. They're taunting me about my father's deceased, my father who raised me. They start talking about my sister Michaela, that they're doing this to her, they're doing that to her. They start telling me about my biological father, and it just goes on and on. So somebody's sending a profile separately and contacting these companies that I'm working for. So prior to me getting to these companies, they're setting up and sending people for me to come work either with me or in the same company and environment that I am, so they can spy and scope me out. But I think it's important for me to tell you and whoever else that can see this, that you can see my resume and what good credibility it has in the printing industry. And I stopped working for the printing industry when I was in my early 30s, like 31 years old. I hadn't been working in the printing industry, but I was extremely well-rounded in the printing field. I've worked for some prestigious places and got lucky for work for a couple of months, couple of weeks. Obviously, the federal government building I worked at, but the cost of it was excruciating. I've only had one office job in my entire life, and that was working at the federal government building, where I actually worked as a printer, but I actually had my own desk. And I always prefer having my own desk, but I've never had that job before. And it still only even paid $15.50 compared to, I've been working at Walmart in different states, and they paid $20 an hour. but or in Colorado as a ski resort. But I've been at job sites like at the Colorado Ski Resort where I have literally been punched for no reason in front of a meeting in order to get me off and have the people victimize me while I'm there and working. And they know who I am, and the police department will set things up, letting them know, okay, we're going to assault him, stay out of the picture, just pretend and run your routine, and then they'll do like a fake police run around me after they do assault. So I think it's important for me to talk about this because I'm always looking for work. Remember this, every single city that I have ever been in, even if it was just for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, first thing I always do within the first few days to week is start sending my resumes to all the staffing agencies and looking for work. And I've gone to hundreds of interviews. And I know people think I'm exaggerating, but when you're homeless and the ways that I've lived in and totally stranded in places, I didn't have anything else to do but try to prevent myself from having to dig in a trash can for food because the unbelievable amount of threats and harassment these people were doing to me. I've had people poison my food when I went into the fridge at job sites. I've had people spit and all kinds of crazy, disgusting shit. I never leave my food inside warehouses or refrigerators or anything like that because the lethal poison and disgusting things people are willing to do to me in retaliation. Because remember this, everything and all the hatred and all the persecution is directly coming from the gay community, from the gays and homosexuals and transgenders. It's no one else. I maybe came across one or two individuals that were homosexuals, whether they were flamboyant or not. They were maybe had a second opinion, thinking that, well, this, what the fuck, you really didn't do, knowing that I didn't do anything, knowing that I was just, they don't give a shit. And then, because if anybody tries to be nice to me in any kind of way, then all the gays and homosexuals will attack that person for not joining in on the attack. Just like a group of hyenas attacking a lion by himself, and they corner him, or a chihuahua in a fucking cage. That's exactly what they're fucking doing, and they do it in teams. You can look at all the homosexuals and gays, how they all signal toward each other, all when we're in work sites, why wanting to team up and do something to me, and they'll put me in the either worst position of job, or they'll put me in a position of job that usually fits them to either do something to me, like a sick psychological game, right? People that worked in warehouses and print shops and all different kinds of companies, you know what I'm talking about when you work at a company, they don't like you or welcome. But for 15 years, have not been able to hold a job more than 7 or 8 weeks. I find that to be the most disrespectful, scolding, unwelcoming of anything you can imagine, because there is no opportunity that is being given to me. There is no opportunity for me to be able to learn new things, to be able to have money for rent, to go to school, to move my life forward. And they cut off all resources of financial money from me because they know what it does to me. I can't get on unemployment, and I have less money, so I have less options in life, and I have less abilities to take care of myself with food. Because all I eat, if I can, when I'm on the streets, is Subway, and anything is just salad, sandwiches, like the healthiest stuff you can imagine. That's the first thing I always think of is, calories, like very intensely for the last 12 years, my whole life, but 12 years especially since I was homeless, that's all I was doing. Since I'm sick, I'm not sick, but since I've had a bone marrow transplant, it is always on my mind to be able to eat good, healthy food, but it costs money. It is not free. And, when I go to these places, It costs, when I eat at Subway, I always get 2 sandwiches for a single meal, a single sit-down meal, and that's like a breakfast or like an early lunch, 2 foot, and I could still be hungry at the end of the day. And I never put the sauces ever. I just put nothing but vegetables on there. I always get the Veggie Delight. I haven't had meat on my Subway sandwiches in probably like 3 years, and I'm not kidding you. Probably about 3 to 4 years I have not had meat on a Subway sandwich at all, if not more than that. But it costs money. So when I get broke and I don't have money, guess what? Then I have to eat at the dollar store. Then I have to buy cheap shit over, like, buy a loaf of fucking bread and just fill up on bread. So it becomes very difficult financially because fruit costs a lot of money as well. Fruit is a big thing that costs a lot of money. So the cheapest way that I can even buy fruit is when it's frozen. And if I don't have a place to eat and I don't have a safe place to put the food, then I have to eat it right then and there. And that's what I do a lot of the times. Most of the time I'd be leaning up against the back of a warehouse on a grocery store, and I'd go buy a couple baskets of strawberries and blueberries and some peaches and just eat. And that's how I would try to fuel my body. But that costs a lot of money. It costs a tremendous amount of money buying fruit. It's not cheap. You run out of money very quickly. So I think it's important for me to talk about that. I really need to be able to work, even if it's just a part-time job. I've never even had a part-time job for fucking 15 years. Any kind of job. And more than 7 to 8 weeks in 15 fucking years. And rather, even if that was seasonal, even if it was seasonal work for 3 months, at a winter ski resort, or 6 months at a ski, or whatever, holiday season, it's none of those things. But I think it's important. Please watch these videos to let you know that it is not me. It is what these people are doing to me, and how vengeful they have been to me and what they have done. I'm telling you, I have a world records in the job sites that I have applied at, and they will not let me work. And I do everything to keep the job. I try to communicate. It doesn't work. You have gays and transgenders all war against me, and that's it. There's not normal conversation. It's just like, oh, we're gay and we run everything. I mean, it's a full-blown rainbow sausage gay faggot party. That's what it is. It's a gay party is what they're doing. But there's nothing that I can do about it. I've had to get up and leave job sites because I had no choice. I've had people assault me multiple times, not just physically, but with the electronic devices. Physically, and tell me, yeah, you want to get shot again? And they'll make a movement and say those exact words, and I'll feel something like kind of burn me in my face, and this has happened to me recently, about 4 or 5 months ago in Dallas, while I was at a job site. So I think it's important for me to talk about, because they're firing me and they're not allowing me to work, to make sure I suffer more. The more I suffer, the happier they are. The more pain they put, the more pleasant and goal-oriented they feel. They don't understand anything else. They only understand hatred and persecution. And that is all they fucking did for huge amounts of periods of times in teams, in a tag team effort. I'm walking in a janitor's room with 1 or 2 people, and then the manager will open the door, come in, and give a signal like to attack me or do something like, you know how to fucking do it, like crazy shit. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on what they do. But this is a resume. I hope this makes sense. I have traveled everywhere. Can't even imagine. I have probably a world record in the U.S. to how many actual cities and towns I have actually lived in the city. Like in Dallas, Plano, Addison, Capel, Louisville, downtown Dallas, Denton, all kinds of different places, including, Seattle, and just all over the fucking place. You can't even imagine the jobs that I have applied at, but this is just to let you know kind of what my job status is, and they will not allow me to work. I can't tell you how many times someone is making the calls for this and saying, don't help, not help me, don't allow me to have a job, only allow them to work a couple weeks, a couple days, then run them off, or do this and do that. And many of these job sites, especially the last 10 years, have only been very strictly psychologically, metaphorically and hypothetically set up in a stage, referencing my personal life and family, most tragic and personal things you can imagine. People yelling at me, laughing at me because I got raped as a child. People taunting me and directing things at me, saying, your brother, got raped. Oh, you're gay too because we raped you with a transgender. You're one of us. The most disgusting things you can imagine. And I know none of these people. So it is just full war. And it's very calculated. It's very calculated. So there goes my resume, and I hope that you can take a look at my resume and know about the world that I've always lived in. And I'm 42 in 2 months, January 6, 2026. I will be 42 years old. And that would actually make it, since I'll be 42, it'll be, exactly 15 years. I was going to say 16 years, but it's 15 years. I have not held a job more than 7 or 8 weeks. What do you think that says? Who's not allowing me to work and what these people are doing? And it's not me. I'm telling you the truth.